Hey, this is MJ, and in today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make our Fall for Granny blanket. The yarn that I'm using for this pattern is Mary Maxim Starlit worsted weight yarn. This yarn has been provided to me from Mary Maxim, and these are the colors that I'm using for the blanket. Now you can pick any 5 colors, and you will need 3 balls of each color plus an additional ball for your border. So one color will need 4 balls, the other 4 colors 3 balls. So you can decide what color you would like for your border. I ended up going with the soft taupe for my border color, but you can choose any colors that you want and choose the color you want for your border. For this pattern, you'll need a 6mm crochet hook. This hook is also from Mary Maxim, and you'll find the links in the description box for the yarn as well as the hook. The colors that I'm using are russet, chocolate, I believe it's chocolate brown. Let me just double check. It's chocolate. The next color is medium taupe, soft taupe, and natural. Our throw blanket measures about 50 inches wide by 65 inches long, and that includes the border, which is about 1 inch in width. So to get started, I'm going to work up a small swatch with you to show you the color pattern and our stitch repeat. Now you can alter the size of the blanket if you want. We'll be working with a multiple of 4 plus 3 for this pattern. So I like to make my swatch a little bit bigger than 4 inches. So we want to make it big enough that we can get a nice measurement of our gauge. So I'm going to work through that with you to show you the stitch pattern, and then this is a great way you can check your gauge if you'd like your blanket to come out the same size as mine. So we're going to begin with that 6mm hook, and I'm going to chain that multiple of 4 plus 3. So I am going to chain out 27, but I need 1 extra for my turning chain. So I will chain out a multiple of 4, which will be 28. Okay, so I've worked out 28. So the pattern is worked in that multiple of 4 plus 3, which is 27, but I need an extra chain for my turning chain to get started into the pattern. Now I'm starting and ending with russet for my blanket. So I'm going to double crochet in the second chain from the hook. So 1, 2, I'm going to double crochet into the next 2 chains as well. And then I'll chain 1. So now we'll skip a chain and then work 3 double crochet or double crochet into the next 3 chains. So our repeat will be chain 1, skip 1 chain, and work a double crochet in the next 3. Chain 1, skip the next chain, double crochet in the next 3. And work that across. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of the chain. I have 4 chains remaining, so we skip the 1 and work a double crochet in the last 3. So this gets us started on our gauge swatch, but now if we're working the entire blanket, you will be chaining out a total of 192. So you will be working across 191 stitches, and you will have a total of 48 clusters along that row. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clusters that we're creating here, but when you're working across that entire blanket, you're going to have 48. So I've pulled back my last double crochet because I'm going to show you how to change your color. So we're going to yarn over, go through the last chain, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we're going to pull through with our new color, finishing the double crochet. So my next color is chocolate. So I'm going to pull in chocolate. Okay, so I'm just going to drape it on my hook, pulling it through. You can give your tails here a tug to tighten it up. I'm going to chain 4 with my next color. So we'll call russet our color A. We're now pulling through with color B, and we're going to get into the next stage of the pattern. Now, because we're changing colors every row, you will have some tails to weave. Some tricks that you can do if you want to eliminate some weaving, you could take these tails, you could knot them really well together if you want to save on weaving, or just leave them long enough, your tails, that you can weave those. You could also do fringe on either side of the blanket if you don't want to deal with all the tails. That's another option. Or you could do a double border if you wanted to hide tails. Lots of options for dealing with the tails, but if you really want to stick away from knotting, then you're just going to weave in the tails at the end. So now I'm going to turn, and I'll be working in the chain 1 space. So I'm going to work 3 double crochet. So this is a cluster, and I'll refer to it as a cluster throughout the pattern. So cluster, chain 1 in every chain 1 space across. Okay, so I'm going to finish that across. Now I'm going to make sure I cut this tail before moving on. We'll get the orange out of the way. And as we come to the end now to finish off this row, we're going to do our last double crochet between our starting double crochet here, and so the second and the third. So you're just going in between this space. So now if we're looking at our swatch, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this row has 1 less cluster than the previous row, and we have 2 double crochet. So 7, 6, and 2 doubles, and if we're working across the entire blanket, you're going to have 47 clusters and 2 double crochet. Now we also need to change color again. I know I'm finishing off those stitches. I'm going to pull them back to again show you we're going to change the color. So go through 2, and then we're going to pull in the next color. I'm going to cut this yarn, and we're going to bring in color C. So medium taupe for my color selection. We're going to take this, we're going to pull it through, and I'm going to chain 3. And that chain kind of gets it secured, and you can always give those tails a tug again. Like I say, we can knot these tails if we want to secure them, or we'll leave them later for weaving. So I'm going to turn now, and we will be working our beginning cluster. So the beginning cluster is the chain 3 and 2 double crochet. 1, 2, and chain 1. Okay, and then we'll work cluster chain 1 in every chain 1 space across. Chain 1, and I'm ending in our last chain 1 space our cluster. And we're going to change color on the last pull through on that double crochet. So we can cut the yarn, and then we're going to bring in our soft taupe. So it's going to be a nice fade of color. So we work through this. Pull through. And now we're going to be going back to repeating row 2, which is a chain 4. So this pattern will be repeating rows 2 and rows 3 throughout. So we skip over the first cluster and you're working a cluster chain 1 in each chain 1 space across. So I'm going to continue that working across. Okay, I've chained 1 and we're ending our last double crochet between the second and third stitch of the cluster. And we aren't going to yarn over and pull through. We're going to bring in our next color. So let's cut the yarn. We're going to bring in our last color, which is natural. And we're back to a repeat of row 3, which is chain 3, turn, and work that beginning cluster, which is 2 double crochets added to the chain 3. Chain 1 and cluster chain 1 across. And we end with a cluster. And you can change color on the last double crochet. And we're going to be working back now with our color A. So it's a very simple color repeat. We're just doing the 5 colors in a row and then we're repeating them. The only difference is we end with the russet. I want us to start and end the same. At the end of the day, this isn't a huge deal if you end your blanket on the repeat and don't do another row of our color A, but I just like the look of the blanket starting and ending with the same color. So in total, we're going to work a total of 22 repeats with the additional repeat of our starting color. So that is 111 rows in total we're going to be working for the blanket. Now, if you wanted to make it more square, you could do less. You could do more or less repeats as you desire. But for this particular size that I've done with all of the yarn amounts calculated, you're going to do 111 rows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish working up the swatch just so we can see the finished swatch and those measurements. So I'm going to go back to color A. And I'm going to chain 4 and turn. This blanket would also look beautiful done in one color. So you could work it all up in one color and you wouldn't have any tails to weave at all. Okay, so I am finishing up, and what we can do at this point is fasten off. So I have my gauge swatch complete now, and it's always a good idea to work up your gauge swatch first, just so you can make sure that you are on track with your gauge. So at this point, you can decide what you want to do with all of these tails, if you want to knot them, if you want to weave them, your preferred method. I like to weave with the same colors when you're doing all of your weaving. And as you could see, you could add even more to the side of these and do some nice fringe if you wanted as well to the side of your blanket. But how I'm going to finish it is with a border. So I definitely want to get rid of these tails and get started on showing you how to do that border. Okay, so I finished up this side and I'm going to show you some different ways you can deal with all of these tails. So let's take these two colors here, and what you could do is you could give them a knot. Okay, so you don't want to distort the side here of the stitch and pull it too tight. So you could give that a knot, and then you could weave this tail and you could weave this tail. And that makes sure that this is nice and secure right here. You could triple knot it so that it's really secure, and give it a trim. Or I'm going to go through them. We could do the knot just to get that secure. Then you could weave it through. You just have to make sure when you're going through a cluster that's not of the same color that you do hide that yarn tail. Go back in the opposite direction. And see, it will pull when you're weaving, so just make sure that you're going back. So this way, if you want to knot for security but you don't want to see any of these little frayed tails, you can weave that You can skip knotting altogether. I just like to make sure if I don't do any knotting that I'm gonna go bring this one up to the darker color just because I don't want to see any orange popping through the lighter color. Okay, we could weave this I know that weaving can seem daunting, but if you just sit and do this while watching a show, it's not so bad. So this one, I mean, you could take it up and weave it through this area if you want, as long as you go one way and just really try to hide the yarn and not distort your stitches. Okay, and then you could also say give it a knot like this. Take both your tails, especially if you have a bigger needle like this. Okay, so there's some options for weaving those tails. Important thing is just get them all out of the way. Okay, so now let's take a look at the gauge of this pattern. So the gauge is 4 clusters and 3 chain 1 spaces. So I really like when we have a bigger swatch like this to measure in to the center for the gauge. So 1, 2, 3, 4 clusters, 1, 2, 3 chain 1 spaces. We could also do this as stitches. So 3 times 4 is 12, 13, 14, 15 stitches, because sometimes it does go into a half stitch. So sometimes I will refer to these patterns as stitches as well, but this one does work out even so that we have an even number of clusters and chain 1 spaces. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. Okay, so now we're going to work on the border. I am going to use the 6mm crochet hook still for this section. So what we're going to do is put a slip knot on our hook. You're going to join into the corner, which is that chain 3 of the beginning cluster. Single crochet in the corner, chain 2, single crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 2, single crochet in the chain 1 space. Now we're going to single crochet in the corner, chain 2, and single crochet in the corner, chain 2, and then as you can see, the one row has a space, the one row has a cluster. So we're going to work the single crochets into those space rows. Which are the rows that end and start with the double. And you just want to make sure that you're not doing this too tight. We don't want it to distort the shape of the blanket. Okay, and back to the corner, chain 2, and do another single crochet in the corner. These stitches are a bit too loose there. Chain 2. Okay, and at the corner, we'll work a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, and continue. So when you get up to the corner, we're going to single crochet, chain 2, and slip stitch into the first single crochet. So we're going to chain 1, work a single crochet in the first stitch, a single crochet in the chain 2, single crochet, single crochet, 2 single crochet in the chain 2, and work this across. Okay, so I'm going to single crochet in the single crochet stitch of the corner, and then in the chain 2 space, you're going to single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and then continue. So single crochet in that next corner stitch, and then in the chain 2 spaces, work 2 single crochet. Okay, so you're going to just keep repeating this around. So again, that chain 2 corner is going to be a single, chain 2, and single in that chain 2 space. Okay, I'm coming up to that last corner, so we're going to single crochet in the chain 2 space, single, chain 2, single, and then slip stitch to join, chain 1, and work around again. So now you want to see at this point, especially if you're doing a swatch, just to see if you're finding that things are pulling too much, maybe a bit bigger hook, or the other option would be is to do 2 single crochets in these spaces. So your space between the clusters and then the spaces for these rows here, you could do 2 single crochet. But mine is looking nice and square how I'm doing it, but this is just some tips. If you're not liking the way it's looking, you could always do that to get it to lay a little flatter. So now I'm going to work a single crochet in every single crochet stitch, and then when I get to the corner, I'll do a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So when you reach the corner, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and keep working around. Now you can keep repeating this round, making the border as thick as you want, or as wide as you want. I went with 1 inch, but you could do more or less depending on what you would like. So I've started onto the 3rd round, and that will give the border about 1 inch. You can see here, but you could always do more if you want. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tap the bell to stay updated on all my new videos and tutorials. Make sure to check the description box below the video for the links to the pattern and the supplies. Thanks so much, guys. Have an awesome day.